My beloved, there comes a time in a woman's life, in a man's journey, when the winds no longer blow us to and fro, when the noise of the world fades into the background, and what once demanded our attention now simply passes by like the distant hum of a train leaving the station. In our youth, we rushed to fix, to help, to be seen, to explain. We wanted to be understood. We chased justice with bare feet and ran headlong into walls trying to right wrongs that were rooted too deep in broken soil. We shouted over noise. We spoke truth where ears were deaf, and we gave our strength to those who merely took it as their due. But listen to me now, child of God, when the years gather behind you like a cloak woven from tears, laughter, wisdom, and bruised knees. That is when you must learn the divine art of stillness. That is when you stop running and begin being. In old age, focus on yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of survival. Tend to the garden of your soul. Pour your time into the vessel of your own heart. Rock on your porch with a peace that comes from knowing the storm passed, and you did not drown. You floated. You lived. You endured. Yes, my dear. Silence is no longer the absence of sound. It is the presence of knowing. It is the mark of a soul that has lived and seen, a soul that has walked through the fire and come out not burnt, but refined like gold. In old age, silence is no longer a place of loneliness. It becomes a sanctuary, a cathedral within where only God and wisdom reside. There was a time when we would run to every ringing bell. Someone called our name, and we came running, hearts open, hands wide, trying to fix, to soothe, to explain. We poured ourselves like water into the cups of others, many of whom never once asked if we were thirsty. We shouted our truth into the wind, hoping it would land somewhere soft, somewhere understanding. But now that the years have brushed their gentle fingers through our hair, and the road behind us is longer than the one ahead, we have learned. Oh, yes, we have learned. We have learned that not every noise deserves our attention. Not every insult needs a rebuttal. Not every misunderstanding must be cleared. Some things are better left to silence, to time, to God. Silence, you see, is not surrender. It is sovereignty. It is knowing when to hold peace like a pearl, and not cast it before those who would trample it beneath careless feet. The young often confuse loudness with power. They believe that the one who shouts the most has won. But let me tell you, baby, let me wrap you in this truth: real power does not yell. It does not need to. It just is. Like the mountains, like the ocean, like the old oak tree that has stood through 1,000 storms. It does not beg for attention, and yet it commands awe. That is what silence becomes in your twilight years. It is the stillness after the storm, the hush after the last word has been spoken, and all that remains is truth. I have sat in rooms filled with noise and felt more alone than I did in solitude. But I have also sat with myself in silence and felt full, whole, complete. Silence gives the soul room to breathe. It is where you hear God most clearly, not in the thunder, but in the still, small whisper. And child, don't you know, not everyone deserves your story. Not everyone has earned the right to your vulnerability, your sacred truths. In youth, we give away too much too fast, hoping it will bring us closer to others. But in old age, we learn that the holiest things are kept quiet. Some things are only meant to be shared with the divine. You learn to sit back and observe, to watch people with gentle eyes and guarded hearts. You no longer jump into every battle. You no longer rush to defend your name, because you understand. What people say about you is not your business. That's between them and their own conscience. You've got better things to tend to, like peace, like gratitude, like the soft blooming of joy in a quiet life. Silence is also where forgiveness lives, not the loud kind that demands acknowledgement or validation, but the soft kind that whispers, "I forgive you for my own sake." The kind of forgiveness that doesn't come with grand gestures, but with a quiet letting go. You release the weight from your shoulders not because they apologized, but because your soul was not built to carry such heaviness. In silence, you remember the strength of your ancestors, the grandmothers who hummed their prayers instead of speaking them, the grandfathers who said few words but whose every step spoke of dignity. You become like them, rooted, unbothered, holy in your hush. There will be those who mistake your silence for weakness. Let them. Let them chatter while you listen to the voice within. Let them misunderstand you. Your peace does not require their permission. In fact, the moment you stop explaining, stop chasing, stop justifying, is the moment you become free. You no longer owe the world an explanation for your boundaries, for your choices, for your sacred yes and your holy no. You've earned the right to keep your peace like a treasure hidden in a field. You've earned the right to protect your joy like a rare bird that only sings for you. So sit, my love. Sit in the garden of your own soul. Sip your tea slow. Read the Psalms. Watch the sunrise without the need to post about it. Talk to God like He's sitting beside you, because He is. Let the young run wild, let the world spin loud. You walk gently now. You walk in rhythm with eternity. For in the quiet you are most fully yourself. In the silence you are closest to the divine. And that, my dear, is not a loss. That is a holy gain. Yes, baby, yes. There comes a time when you must turn inward. Not to hide, but to heal. In the long arc of a life, when the fire of youth has quieted to a slow burning flame, you come to understand something precious: your time, your peace, your energy. They are sacred. You learn that focusing on yourself is not a betrayal of others, but a holy return to your soul. See, the world will keep on spinning with or without your constant motion. The dishes will still need washing, the phone will still ring, and people. Oh, people. They will always want more of you than they ever intend to return. But now you have tasted too much of life to give your essence away so easily. Now, you turn toward your spirit like a sunflower turns toward the light. You do not chase any more. You attract, and only what was meant for you. You begin to wake up slow, not rushing to anyone's clock but your own. You stretch your arms not for labor, but for gratitude. You look in the mirror and see more than wrinkles. You see a map, a story, a face carved with rivers of joy and canyons of sorrow, and you say, "Look what I have survived. Look what I have become." There is a beauty in old age that youth cannot touch. A freedom that only comes when you stop needing to be seen and start seeing yourself. You become your own best company, your own cheerleader, your own healer. You fix your tea just the way you like it. You read your favorite book not to impress anyone, but because it feeds you. You sit under the old tree not to post about it, but to feel the breeze and hear the earth whisper her secrets to you. You care for yourself the way you once cared for everyone else. You lay your hand on your heart and ask, "How are you today, my love?" And you listen. You honor your needs. You rest when you're tired. You cry when you must. You no longer push past pain to keep others comfortable. No, now you honor your boundaries like royalty guards a gate. You know what you can carry and what you must put down. There is no more guilt in saying no. You have paid the price of too many forced yeses. You have smiled through too much discomfort to pretend any longer. You do not explain yourself. Not because you are unkind, but because you know your peace is not up for negotiation. You have become a sanctuary, and not everyone gets access to the holy place. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never built for your brilliance. You let the light hit you full and unfiltered. You walk with a grace that says, "I have nothing to prove, but everything to celebrate." And yes, the world may not understand. They may call you distant, different, disconnected, but let them talk. You are not here to be understood. You are here to understand yourself. You are not here to perform. You are here to be. Focusing on yourself means unlearning the lies. It means no longer defining your worth by what you give others. It means remembering that you, too, are worthy of love, of rest, of joy, even when no one is watching, especially then. You start tending to your health not out of fear, but out of reverence. You walk not just to stay fit, but to stay free. You pray not because it's Sunday, but because every day you wake up is a miracle. You learn to nourish yourself, body, mind, spirit, not all at once, but little by little, gently, consistently. You no longer reach for empty relationships to fill you. You have filled yourself with God. You've filled yourself with peace that surpasses understanding. You've tasted solitude and found it sweet. You've stopped begging for crumbs and begun baking your own bread. And when you sit in your quiet home, with the wind whispering outside your window and the warm cup in your hand, you smile, because you have finally come home to yourself. No more running, no more pleasing, no more pretending, just you. Beautiful, aging, radiant, real. You have become a woman, a man who knows that focusing on yourself is the highest praise to the one who made you. You have become a living testimony, not loud, not showy, but powerful in your presence. You do not chase light, you are light. So rest, beloved, breathe. Dance in your living room with the music up loud. Laugh until your sides ache. Cry when the old memories visit. Eat slowly. Walk barefoot. Speak kindly, especially to yourself, because now you know you are the soul you've been waiting for. You are the prayer answered in flesh. You are the joy they said could only come after struggle. And oh, how sweet it is to finally focus on you. My sweet child, come close and let me tell you something the world will never whisper gently into your ear. Come near and sit at the feet of wisdom. For in this season of your life, it is not applause that you need, but awareness. The sun has risen and set over your head too many times for you to still hunger for the nod of approval from those who neither see your heart nor understand your soul. Now is not the time to beg for validation. Now is the time to release it. Let me say it plainly, you don't need their approval anymore. You never truly did. There was a time, yes, when you danced for their applause, stretched yourself thin for their comfort, and held your tongue to make others feel whole. You changed your voice, your clothes, your laugh, all to be accepted in rooms that never once deserved your spirit. You twisted yourself into forms God never intended, all for a smile that was hollow and a pat on the back that never reached your soul. But oh, how beautiful it is when you finally stop. How sacred is the moment when you realize that no one can give you what you already carry inside, that the worth you were trying to earn was yours from the beginning, stitched into your being by the very hand of God. It is not arrogance to know your value. It is awareness. It is not pride to walk with your head held high. It is honor. Honor for the years you survived. Honor for the tears you wiped with your own hands. Honor for the nights you prayed with a cracking voice and still got up the next morning to face a world that never saw the battle behind your smile. There is a quiet liberation in no longer seeking to be liked. When you have walked through fire and lived to tell the tale, you no longer shrink to make others comfortable. You no longer silence your truth to keep peace that never included you. You speak with clarity or not at all. You show up fully or not at all. Because you have learned. Your presence is a gift, not a request. And let me tell you, baby, some folks won't like the you that has healed. They won't understand the you that no longer bends. They were too familiar with your wounds, and your wholeness threatens the roles they played in your life. Let them go. Let them misunderstand you. Let them talk. You are not here to be understood by the masses. You are here to be true to yourself and to your Creator. You are here to move through this life with grace and with grit, not to gather shallow praises, but to gather strength. The need to be liked is a prison, but self-respect is the key. You no longer ask, do they see me? Now you ask, do I see myself? Do I honor the woman, the man I've become? You no longer ask, will they approve of my choices? Now you ask, is this choice in alignment with my peace, with my spirit, with my God? And in that asking, beloved, you are reborn. Because when you stop needing approval, you start making room for truth. You no longer wear the masks you were handed. The one that smiled through pain, the one that nodded through disrespect, the one that bowed even when you were meant to rise. You place those masks down gently, not in anger, but in love. You say, thank you, but I am done. And then you stand, unmasked, unafraid, unbothered. And in that standing, you teach others how to treat you. You teach the world how to see you, not by shouting, but by being consistent, being honest, being full of the Spirit and not full of the need to please. Now, you pour into yourself without guilt. You say no without explanation. You leave the party early because your soul needed rest. You block out the noise because peace is your birthright. You stop attending every argument you're invited to. You learn that silence is not the absence of love. Sometimes it is the loudest form of self-love there is. You begin to move like the ocean, powerful and patient. You begin to shine like the moon, soft but unwavering. You begin to walk like you've been touched by God, because you have. And it's not that people won't still try to sway you. They will. They'll question your silence, your solitude, your sacred shifts. But that's none of your business now. You are no longer in the business of being understood by those who have never sat with your spirit. You've come too far to turn back. You've bled too long to keep bandaging others at the cost of your own healing. You've cried too many private tears to keep performing for a public that does not see your heart. This is your season of sovereignty, of not waiting for permission to be who you are, of not seeking praise for walking the path God carved just for you. You do not need their map. You have your own compass now, and it points not north or south, but inward. You are not lost, my dear. You are arriving every day. You are arriving more fully into yourself, and you don't need anyone to clap for that. Your soul is already singing.
Yes, baby, yes.
Come, sit in the warmth of this truth like sunlight on tired skin. You have lived long enough to see through the masks now. The glimmering words that once fooled you, they've dulled. The pretty faces, the sweet lies, the empty gestures, they no longer charm you. Because age, my darling, age has given you something that the young cannot buy, and the rich cannot steal clarity. You see now, you see clearly. You don't just look at people, you see them. You see the smile that doesn't meet the eyes. You hear the kindness in the voice that hides control. You feel the shifting energy when someone says they love you, but their actions say otherwise. You don't need explanations anymore. The truth sits plainly in front of you, in the way they show up or don't, in the way they speak your name or forget it when the crowd changes. Old age sharpens the spirit. You've lived enough chapters to recognize patterns. You've danced with the same devils dressed in new suits, and now you know when to leave the dance floor. You've learned that not every invitation needs acceptance. Not every call needs answering, and not every person is meant to walk the whole journey with you. Now, instead of rushing to prove yourself, you lean back and observe. You don't argue. You don't beg. You don't chase. You watch. And in your watching, you gain wisdom. Because silence reveals what noise once concealed. You can tell when someone's intentions aren't clean. You can tell when their "God bless you" is laced with envy. You can feel when someone's hands are touching yours, but their heart is somewhere else entirely. And that's all right. It doesn't break you anymore. Because you no longer need everyone to be good to you to know your worth. You don't need every story to end in love. You don't need every goodbye to come with closure. Sometimes people exit the stage of your life with no explanation, and now, in this seasoned stretch of living, you let them. You bless them and release them. See, when you were younger, you clung. You held on. You begged people to stay even when they were breaking your peace. But now you know better. You know that everything that leaves you creates space for something greater, or simply for your own soul to breathe. And Lord knows your soul has been holding its breath for far too long. You've grown into your discernment like a queen grows into her crown, slowly but surely. And it fits now. It fits. You trust your gut. You trust that little whisper that says, "This isn't right." You no longer need receipts and evidence and long-winded apologies to validate your feelings. Your feelings are enough. Your discomfort is enough. If something doesn't sit right in your spirit, you don't swallow it anymore. You spit it out and walk away with dignity. There is a quiet joy in no longer being fooled. Not a bitter joy, no, but a calm one, a restful one. The joy of knowing that you are awake now. You are present. You are discerning. You have walked through fire and learned not to let everyone carry your wood. You don't just see people. You see through them, but not with judgment. With compassion. You've made mistakes too. You've been the villain in someone else's story. You've hurt people, maybe not with intention, but with ignorance. So you don't look down your nose at anyone, but you do look with open eyes. You know what's real now. You know what love feels like, and what control disguised as love feels like. You know what support looks like, and what manipulation dressed up in kindness looks like. You've become a master of energy, baby. You feel it before a word is spoken. You sense it in a room, in a handshake, in the space between words. And you don't ignore it anymore. Because clarity is not cold, it is holy. It is a gift. It is God saying, "Child, I need you to see so you can be free." And that's what old age does. It frees you. It frees you from illusions. From the fairy tales you once told yourself just to survive. From the lies you swallowed so you could sleep. But now, you don't want to sleep anymore. You want to wake. You want to live with your eyes open, your heart protected, and your spirit at peace. You don't carry everyone with you now. You let people walk their own paths. You no longer drag dead weight in the name of loyalty. You let go, not out of hatred, but out of honor for your own soul. Your back is tired. Your bones are wise and your time is precious. You've paid too much for your peace to let anyone steal it now. So you sit quietly when others perform. You smile gently when others boast. You nod slowly when someone thinks they're telling you something new, when you already knew the ending before the story began. That's what clarity does. It makes you soft, not weak, but soft, soft like velvet, but strong like oak. You don't need to prove you're right, you just know. And you thank God for the vision, the inner sight, the sacred insight. Because now, finally, you can move through life not with fear, but with freedom, not needing to convince or control, but simply to be clear, to be calm, to be whole. Ah, my beloved, when you've walked as long as we have, you learn the power of quiet. Not the quiet of the timid, no. Not the hush of those afraid to speak, nor the silence forced upon the weak. I'm talking about the majestic, deliberate, soul-deep silence of one who knows their worth, knows their calling, and knows they don't have to say a thing to be something. Yes, child, there is strength in silence. There is grace in restraint. There is healing in simply letting the world spin while you sit still, grounded like an oak tree whose roots stretch into the heart of the earth. You've learned, in your season of ripening, that everything doesn't need your voice. Every fight is not your battle. Every insult does not require a response. You see, when you are younger, you think you have to answer to everything. You think you must defend your name, explain your choices, prove your worth. But baby, the older you get, the quieter you become, not out of weariness, but out of wisdom, not from defeat, but from divine discernment. You understand that silence is often the loudest answer you can give. It shakes the ground more than shouting ever could. You begin to master the art of not reacting. You no longer rise to every bait. You don't chase arguments down alleys of ignorance. You don't waste breath correcting every lie, confronting every betrayal, or tending to every wound others try to inflict. Because you know now, not everyone deserves a piece of your spirit. Not every voice should echo in your sanctuary. You've spent too many years explaining yourself to people who were never listening. You've cried in rooms where your tears were invisible. You've raised your voice in places where your silence would have spoken louder. And now you save your words for prayers, for poetry, for people who honor them. You stay silent not because you have nothing to say, but because you choose peace over pettiness. You choose stillness over struggle. You choose wisdom over warfare. You learn, too, that God speaks loudest in the silence. That when you turn down the noise of the world, the chatter, the criticism, the chaos, you can hear your soul again. You hear heaven whispering, "Be still and know that I am God." And you listen, Lord. You listen. There's a sacred knowing in you now, a calm in your bones, a rhythm in your breath that says, I am no longer here to convince. I am here to live. You no longer feel the need to tell folks how they hurt you. They know. You don't need to prove your innocence. The truth has a way of rising like the sun. You don't need to clap back, because your peace, your silence, your calm, that is the clapback. Silence, my dear, is not empty. It is full of meaning, full of power, full of choices made and battles surrendered, full of freedom. And oh, how liberating it is to not explain your joy, to smile without reason, to walk away without drama, to cry alone and rise anyway. That is the quiet strength of a soul that has found home within itself. You no longer look for applause when you walk into a room. You no longer need someone to nod in approval. You don't crave the spotlight. You're content in the shadows, wrapped in your truth like a shawl, holding your peace like a prayer between your lips. You've come to understand that silence is a boundary. It's a line drawn not in sand, but in spirit. It says, I love myself too much to keep engaging with what harms me. It says, I choose my peace over your opinion. It says, I trust God more than I trust arguments. And that, my love, is not weakness. That is power. See, sometimes folks think if you're not talking, you've given up. They mistake your silence for surrender. But let them think what they will. Because you know better. You know that quiet doesn't mean empty. It means full of wisdom, full of knowing, full of light too sacred to be wasted on those who don't care to see. You've learned, in your beautiful old age, that being silent is sometimes the most radical thing you can do. You stop correcting every misconception. You stop defending yourself against people who have already made up their minds. You stop explaining your decisions to those who don't live your life or carry your burdens. You walk away. You sit in peace. You close your door and light a candle. You drink your tea and thank God for the freedom to be unbothered. You rest, Lord, how you rest. You rest your voice. You rest your heart. You rest your mind from the weight of trying to be understood by those who do not have the capacity to understand you. And in that rest you rise, stronger, softer, wiser. That, beloved, is the victory of silence. It is the moment when you realize your spirit does not owe anyone noise. You are not here to echo the chaos of the world. You are here to anchor peace. You are here to speak only when the words carry love, truth, and purpose. And when they don't, you sit back. You let the winds blow and the world argue. And you, sweet soul, stay silent and free.